Hi, this is Greg Johnson from Blue Book, and today is Week in Review. I'm joined as usual by Pamela Schneider. And this is the Independence Day edition, as you can see from our USA soccer jerseys and various paraphernalia.
Everything's about a soccer jersey. I think I have a soccer jersey for every occasion.
I think I might be able to match you. At least get close. So we definitely are going to talk about the food box next contract winners, and then the huge announcement that PMA Fresh Summit will not be taking place in person. But before we do that, I know you've been working on a column that you're going to have out Monday morning about some retail trends that kind of expands on some of the stuff you do with Anne-Marie. So why don't you give us a little preview of what you've learned from that and what our audience can learn?
Well, I got a study from the Retail Feedback Group, which contributes some information to the weekly report that Anne-Marie puts together for PMA about online shopping trends. And everyone's been watching online shopping right now. We've seen tremendous growth over the last couple of months, kind of just skipping 5 years ahead of where a lot of retail observers thought the industry would be. But the Retail Feedback Group has a new study that talked to consumers about this certain time period, about the COVID time period, about their expectations and how they're shopping. They had some really fascinating data, and it was also pulled from people who shop both in-store and online. And the study found that about a third of its respondents, this was the first time shopping online. And the other thing I thought was really interesting was 62% of the respondents said they shopped 2 or more providers in the past 3 months. So they're shopping around to see who's actually doing a better job of delivering, because that's been an issue for online grocery, is capacity and scaling up and being able to fulfill all of these orders.
Does this include pickup too?
Yeah, this includes pickup. And actually, here was another stat from that. Order pickup gained popularity over delivery over the past 3 years. So it jumped from 43% of the respondents said they did pick up to 51% in 2020. So that was 2018 to 2020. And delivery dropped from 57% in 2018 to 48% in 2020. So pickup is picking up. And this is something that I've been talking about for years. It didn't really make sense to me financially to how are we going to be able to support a system to hire a personal shopper to bring your groceries to your house and keep it cost effective. Pickup makes so much more sense for retailers, for cold chain management, for order fulfillment, and it seems like it's gaining popularity with consumers as well.
Yeah, I understand that you also had it broken out by generations, and
yeah, there was an interesting stat that I'm kicking around trying to figure out the methodology on this, and I'll probably talk to them about it a little more. Gen Z was the most common to shop online, so 68% of the Gen Z people, I believe, shopped online, and then millennials were the second most common, and those two groups were the least satisfied with it compared to older shoppers. I mentioned Gen Z in particular, but millennials also were less likely to be satisfied with their online shopping experience for groceries. And I really think that kind of fits in with these digital native folks who are used to being catered to when they're shopping online. I mean, the algorithms can pick up what you're looking for. I've been looking for soccer cleats lately for my kid, and every single website I go to now has a suggestive ad for soccer cleats, but I don't see suggestive ads for cherries right now. So how can grocery and how can produce tap into some of these digital tools for suggestive selling for online grocery? Because I'm just not seeing it. Walmart's the only one that I ever really see, and I haven't really seen much of that lately.
Yeah. Did it mention anything about Gen X, or do we get forgotten about again?
Yeah, a little bit. There's a little bit of mention of Gen X. Yeah, we exist.
Oh, that's
we exist. We spend a lot of money. Who cares?
We do. We spend a lot of money and get totally taken for granted.
The largest population with kids at home. So we spend the most money on family food for sure.
Oh, well. All right, let's get into the meat of the talk. We came out this morning with the food box recipients, and as expected, some of the ones who struggled got dropped, including Create a Date, which is right down the street from you. what did you find on Create a Date that was interesting to you?
Well, see, I mean, Create a Date's been tough because I've reached out to them before. I haven't gotten a response, but they're also quite vocal on their social media, responding to critics, because throughout the whole process, some of the local media, including the San Antonio Express News, has been doing in-depth coverage, quoting all of the food banks around us, and talking about how they've come short on what was expected. They've turned the food banks themselves have counted on getting boxes from this organization, and it ended up not delivering. And Create a Date, however, on their social media has been responding saying, well, we've got the 7-state area and we're delivering to 50 to 75 places other than San Antonio. But I really think right now the industry is sitting back and going, I want to see the receipts, because there's a whole lot of stuff being said out there online and not a whole lot of actual backing it up to come out of this. And according to the USDA's latest contract list, which we've been hounding them for weeks, Create a Date didn't get renewed, according to the official list. So that tells me that either they did or they didn't deliver. I mean, it just comes down to where's the receipts?
Oh yeah, it would have been shocking for me had they been able to deliver based on the early reporting and the slow start that they got to.
Yeah.
And once you get a slow start, and their area was so huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge miscalculation, and I'm looking forward to getting a hold of some of the new contract winners and seeing what they have learned from some of the others who have gone through it. And it's good to see a lot of the ones that we talked to that had a pretty good time with it got renewed.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying this program has been a failure. That's the opposite. I'm saying that there are some contract award winners. I'm pulling up the list here. Some of the newer award winners are ones where you're like, oh, wow, they didn't get a contract in the first place. Like Military Produce Group, for example. Yeah. That is an organization that is well-versed in government contracts. They've been a DECA supplier for decades, pretty much. And they just got $21 million. That's a contract that makes sense. For sure. So they're Charlie's Produce. They didn't get one in the first round. They've got one in this round. They had collaborated with Pacific Coast Fruit, which did get renewed. I think that's a pretty long list of companies that did get renewed, but glaring omission. I don't see Create a Date on there.
No, and we will have to do some digging, because I see Go Fresh as one that's a new winner at $36 million, and I know they had a contract last time because I got it myself.
Yeah, right. So it's the list that we've been asking USDA for doesn't look like it has everything on it. It was buried in the site somewhere that wasn't part of the regular Farmers to Families Food Box Program announcements. So there's still some digging to do on this, and still some fact checking to do on this. But this is what we have to go on for now. I don't see Create a Date on this list. And the industry wants to see some receipts on, did they actually fulfill their orders, and are they actually going to pay their vendors?
There is going to be some serious repercussions if that's the case.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be very bad. Well, the other bit of news this week was something that a lot of us suspected would happen, and we were dreading, because meeting in person is huge, and Fresh Summit is the kind of event that brings over 20,000 people together, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in person.
Yes, we did get the announcement this week that Fresh Summit is officially going to pivot to a virtual event, and I'm sure that there's a whole lot of questions. We don't have a whole lot of answers right now on exactly how that's going to run. They do have a meeting scheduled for August 13th for exhibitors and sponsors to talk about opportunities. And they said that they will be reaching out to exhibitors and sponsors to, see what they want to do with both their booth space and their sponsorship levels. I think there's some discussions to be had about, these virtual shows. It's a huge cost savings for companies to not be sending, 20 to 100 people, depending on how many people you're sending to one of
Yeah,
these
and then
trade
booth
shows.
space is expensive.
Yeah, booth space is expensive. Sponsorships are expensive. The virtual platforms are not as expensive based on, just the research that I've done. I know some people who put on events, and they've told me that it's actually, quite inexpensive, depending on the platform, I'm sure. So, it'll be interesting to see how this goes and how it runs. Are they going to be charging admission for attendees, or are they going to follow United Fresh's model and have it free for attendees to try to get as many people participating with it as possible? A whole lot of questions and not a lot of answers right now.
Yeah, and they'll certainly learn something from the food service live that is near the end of July that we'll certainly be tracking, and everyone will learn something from that. And according to PMA's website, that companies can buy into well, I don't know if it's face-to-face, but sourcing meetings, they're calling it. Mm-hmm. And so that's a revenue model, and doesn't appear to be any place for attendees to pay. So
yeah, the change from in-person to digital trade shows is really changing the way that these revenue streams work for the organizations that are putting them together. So it could be a pretty significant change depending on how this goes over the next couple of years, that we might see changes in the way that these associations and organizations work. So far, there's still, the Southeast Produce Council has not announced whether or not they plan to cancel their show that is scheduled for Savannah in September. The latest we've gotten from them is the show will go on, but not sure depending on how things are going over the next couple of months.
Well, it's the beginning of July, and as it has been for the past few months, something seems to change every day. So you just mentioned what's going to happen next year. Come on, man. Next year.
Yeah, I don't have that on my bingo card.
I'm still waiting for the baseball season to start this year.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that. At least we've got soccer. I mean, we've always got soccer right now, at least. They haven't taken that away from me yet.
And golf.
And soccer and golf. That's what we got. I mean, those are pretty good distance sports, I guess. All right, Greg. Well, that's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review. Have a fantastic 4th of July weekend, and we will see you again next week. If you're not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you should sign up.
Yes.
Is that what you were going to say?
Yes.
I'm out of here. This is enough. Go America.